Hello everyone, myself Mesha Shatabdi Dhar, and today in this video I am going to discuss about priority scheduling algorithm. Among different types of scheduling algorithms, I am going to discuss here the priority scheduling algorithm which is belonging from this unit 4 named scheduling. Let us understand the priority scheduling through a real life scenario. Suppose in a bus stop, four people, like one old man, a physically disabled person, a little girl who wants to go to school, and a middle aged man, are waiting. When the bus came in the stop, those people want to have their seats in the bus. But there may be some problem of accommodation. If those people are accommodated through some basis of priority, like first priority will be given to the physically disabled person, next the old man, and next the little girl. And as per the lowest priority, the middle aged man will be accommodated in the bus at the last. So that this is the main scenario of priority scheduling. To schedule on the basis of priority. Now we will know what is priority scheduling. In priority scheduling, there is a priority number assigned to each process. In some systems, the lower the number, the higher the priority. While in the others, the higher the number, the higher will be the priority. The process with the higher priority among the available process is given the CPU. There are two types of priority scheduling algorithm. One is preemptive priority scheduling and the other one is non-preemptive priority scheduling. The priority number assigned to each of the process may or may not vary. If the priority number doesn't change itself throughout the process, it is called static priority. While if it keeps changing itself at the regular intervals, it is called dynamic priority. Now we will know about non-preemptive priority scheduling. In the non-preemptive priority scheduling, the processes are scheduled according to the priority number assigned to them. Once the process gets scheduled, it will run till the completion. Generally, the lower the priority number, the higher is the priority of the process. The people might get confused with the priority numbers. Hence, they are clearly mentioned which one is the highest priority and which one is the lowest priority. Now let us solve a numerical example on the non-preemptive priority scheduling. Our question is, consider the following 7 processes like P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, P6 and P7 available in the ready queue, each having its own unique burst time, arrival time and also the priority, where lesser the number, higher the priority. We have to calculate here the average waiting time. To solve this problem, first we have to create a Gantt chart. So as per the given question, the lesser the number, the higher the priority. So P7 should get the CPU first. But as per the arrival time, at the time 0, P7 is not arrived. So it will not get the CPU. At the time 0, the process P1 has arrived. So it will be executed first. And as it is the non-preemptive method, so full burst time will be executed. Now at the time 8, the processes P2, P3, P4, P5 and P6 all are arrived and waiting in the ready queue. So as per priority, P5 will be executed then. and will be executed for the full burst time. So P5 will be complete its execution at the time 8 plus 6 equal to 14. At the time 14, the ready and arrived processes are P2, P3, P4, P6 and P7, among which the process P7 has the higher priority. So it will be executed for its whole burst time, that is 1. So its execution will be completed at the time 14 plus 1 equal to 15. Now all the remaining processes are arrived in the ready queue. So as per the higher priority, either P2 or P4 will execute, as because both are having the same priority 4. Now we have to check the arrival time of both of those processes. As per the FCFS concept, P2 will get the chance first and will execute for its burst time 2 and complete its execution at the time 15 plus 2 equal to 17. Next, the process P3 that has the same priority as P2 will get the chance. So P3 will execute it for the burst time 4 and will be completed its execution at the time 17 plus 4 equal to 21. The next highest priority is of the process P4. So it will be executed for its burst time 1 and will complete its execution at the time 21 plus 1 equal to 22. And the lowest priority is of the process P6. So it will be executed at the last for its burst time 5 and will be completed its execution at the time 22 plus 5 equal to 27. So as per the Gantt chart, the completion time of the process P1 is 8. For process P2, the completion time is 17. For P3, it is 21. And for P4, it is 22. P5, it is 14. And P6, it is 27. And for P7, it is 15. Now to get turnaround time, we have to subtract arrival time from completion time. Now as per the formula of this turnaround time, we got the turnaround time of the process P1 is 8, like 8 minus 0 equal to 8. For P2, this is 17 minus 1 equal to 16. For P3, it is 21 minus 3 equal to 18. For the process P4, it is 22 minus 4 equal to 18. For P5, it is 14 minus 5 equal to 9. For the process P6, it is 27 minus 6 equal to 21. And the process for P7, it is 15 minus 10 equal to 5. Calculating the waiting time of any process, we have to subtract burst time from the turnaround time. Applying the formula of waiting time, we got the waiting time for process P1 is 8 minus 8 equal to 0. For the process P2, it is 16 minus 2 equal to 14. For the process P3, it is 18 minus 4 equal to 14. For the process P4, it is 18 minus 1 equal to 17. For the process P5, it is 9 minus 6 equal to 3. For the process P6, it is 21 minus 5 equal to 16. And for the process P7, it is 5 minus 1 equal to 4. To calculate the response time, the formula is CPU first time subtract arrival time. Applying that formula, we got the response time for P1 is 0, for P2 it is 14, for P3 it is 14, for P4 it is 17, for P5 the response time is 3, and for P6 it is 16. Also for P7 the response time is 4. Now to calculate the average turnaround time, first we have to add all the turnaround times and divide that with the number of process, that is 8 plus 16 plus 18 plus 18 plus 9 plus 21 plus 5 divided by 7 equal to 95 by 7 equal to 13.5. To calculate the average waiting time, we have to add all the waiting times divided with that number of process, that is 68 divided by 7 equal to 9.7. And to calculate the average response time, we have to add all the response times and divide that with the number of processes, that is 68 divided by 7 equal to 9.7. Numeric example of non-preemptive priority scheduling, we got the results like average turnaround time is 13.5 millisecond, average waiting time is 9.7 millisecond, and average response time is 9.7 millisecond. Now we will know what is preemptive priority scheduling. In preemptive priority scheduling, at the time of arrival of a process in the ready queue, its priority is compared with the priority of the other processes present in the ready queue, as well as with the one which is being executed by the CPU at that point of the time. That the one with the highest priority among all the available processes will be given the CPU next. The difference between preemptive priority scheduling and non-preemptive priority scheduling is that in the preemptive priority scheduling, the job which is being executed can be stopped at the arrival of a higher priority job. Once all the jobs get available in the ready queue, the algorithm will behave as non-preemptive priority scheduling, which means the job scheduled will run till the completion and no preemption will be done here. Now we will solve a numeric example of preemptive priority scheduling. Now our question is, consider the following 7 processes like P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, P6 and P7 available in the ready queue, each having its own unique burst time, arrival time and also the priority, where lesser the number, higher the priority. Here we have to calculate the average waiting time. So to solve this numeric example or numeric question, we have to create Gantt chart using this priority based table. Here the highest priority is of the process P7 because it is given that lesser the number, higher the priority. But it is not arrived at the time 0 as its arrival time is given 10. So, as in the arrival time 0, the only process P1 is arrived, so it will be executed first. But as it is preempted method, we have to check the next arrival time, which is given here 1. So the process P1 will execute of the time 1 and the remaining time will be here for P1 is 8 minus 1 equal to 7. Now at the time 1, we have to check which process is arrived newly. We can see P2 has arrived at the time 1. But the priority of the process P1, which is already in the running queue and now waiting in the ready queue, holds higher priority than P2. So no context switching will happen here. And the process P1 will again continue its execution and will be executed up to the time 3 because the next arrival time is given 3 and the remaining time for the process P1 will be 7 minus 2 equal to 5. At the time 3, the new process arrived is process P3 whose priority is 4 but again it is lesser than the running process P1. So here also no context switch will happen and it will again continue, and as per the next arrival time is 4, the process P1 will continue its execution for the time 1 and remaining time will be 5 minus 1 equal to 4. Now at the time 4, the new process arrived is the process P4. But again its priority is lower than the running process P1. So again there will be no context switching. And again P1 will continue for the time interval 1 as because the next arrival time is 5. So the remaining time for the process P1 will be now 4 minus 1 equal to 3. Now again we have to check that which new process is arrived at the time 5 and that can be seen here as the process P5. Now here we can see that the priority of process P5 is higher than the running process P1. For this, here we have to use the context switch. That is, we have to save the running process P1 for later and start the execution of the process P5. Now P5 will run up to the time 6 because the next arrival time is 6. So after its execution, the remaining time of the process P5 will be 6 minus 1 equal to 5. Here again we have to check for the new process arrived at the time 6. And the process arrived at the time 6 is the process P6 whose priority is lesser than the running process P5. So here also no context switch will happen. The process will continue its execution again up to the time 10 as because the time of the next arrival process is 10. So after this execution, the remaining time for the process P5 will be 5 minus 4 equal to 1. At the time 10, the new process arrived is process P7 and it holds the highest priority. So now here the context switching will happen and P7 will execute for its burst time 1 and will complete its execution at the time 10 plus 1 equal to 11. Now all the processes are already arrived. There are no new process to arrive again. Now it becomes the non-preemptive priority scheduling. Here from the remaining process we can see that the process P5 holds the highest priority. So P5 will be executed for all its remaining burst time and will complete at the time 11 plus 1 equal to 12. Next we can see that the process P1 holds the highest priority among the remaining processes. So now P1 will execute for its remaining burst time 3. So P1 will complete its execution at the time 12 plus 3 equal to 15. After the last execution, Here, the processes P2 and P3 both holds the same highest priority. Here we have to apply the FCFS method. As the process P2 arrived first, so it will get the service first. In this situation, we have to use this FCFS method, that is first come, first serve. So now P2 will execute for its burst time 2 and will complete its execution at 15 plus 2 equal to 17. Now the process like the same priority of P2, that is the process P3 will execute for its burst time 4 and will complete its execution at the time 17 plus 4 equal to 21. After that, the process P4 hold the higher priority. So P4 will execute for its burst time 1 and will complete its execution at the time 21 plus 1 equal to 22. And at last the lowest priority is here, that is the process P6. So it will be executed now for its burst time 5 and will complete its execution at the time 22 plus 5 equal to 27, and all the processes are completed their execution here. Now from the Gantt chart, we got the completion time for the process P1 is 15. For the process P2, the completion time is 17. For the process P3, the completion time is 21. For P4, the completion time is 22. For P5, the completion time is 12. For P6, the completion time is 27. And the last process, that is the process P7, the completion time is 11. Now to calculate turnaround time for each processes, we have to subtract arrival time of those processes from the completion time of those processes. After calculating using this formula, we got the turnaround time for the process P1 is 15. For the process P2, the turnaround time is 16. For the process P3, the turnaround time is 18. For process P4, the turnaround time is 18. For P5, the turnaround time is 7. For P6, the turnaround time is 21. For the process P7, the turnaround time is 1. To calculate the waiting time for each process, we have to subtract the burst time of each process from the turnaround time of the processes. Now calculating the given formula, we got the waiting time for the process P1 is 7. For the process P2, the waiting time is 14. For P3, the waiting time is 14. For P4, the waiting time is 17. For P5, the waiting time is 1. For the process P6, the waiting time is 16. And for the process P7, the waiting time is 0. And to calculate the response time of any process, we have to subtract the arrival time for the first time getting the CPU for any process. So applying the formula, we got the response time for the process P1 is 0. For the process P2, the response time is 14. For the process P3, the response time is 14. For P4, the response time is 17. For P5, it is 0. For the process P6, the response time is 16. And for the process P7, the response time is 0. Now, to calculate the average turnaround time, we have to First, add all the turnaround times for the processes and divide that with the number of process, that is 7. So it will be equal to 96 divided by 7 equal to 13.7. To calculate the average waiting time, first we have to add all the waiting times and divide it by the number of process. So it will be equal to 69 divided by 7 equal to 9.8. And the average response time equal to addition of all the response times divided by the number of process, that is 61 divided by 7 equal to 8.7. So for this numeric example for preemptive priority scheduling, we got the results like average turnaround time is 13.7 millisecond, average waiting time is 9.8 millisecond, and average response time is 8.7 millisecond. Now we will know what should be the problem with priority scheduling algorithm. In priority scheduling algorithm, there are the chances of indefinite blocking or starvation. A process is considered blocked when it is ready to run but has to wait for the CPU as some other process is running currently. But in case of priority scheduling, if new higher priority processes keeps coming in the ready queue, then the processes waiting in the ready queue with lower priority may have to wait for a very long duration before getting the CPU for execution. That's the starvation. So to prevent starvation of any process, we can use the concept of aging, where we keep on increasing the priority of low priority process based on its waiting time. For example, if we decide the aging factor to be 0.5 for each day of waiting, then if a process with priority 20, which is comparatively low priority, comes in the ready queue, after 1 day of waiting, its priority is increased to 19.5 and so on. Doing so, we can ensure that no process will have to wait for indefinite time for getting CPU time for processing. Hope through this video I can make you understand all about the priority scheduling algorithm. Thank you for watching this video and don't forget to subscribe my channel.